for those who don't know me, those who are not from Israel. I'm from Ort Israel R&D Center. This is the largest school network in Israel, and we're national coordinators in this project, in the SAL project. And what I'm going to talk about is pretty general, actually, in relation to projects, to PBL processes with students. But of course, you can take it to be more specific in the context of the SAL project, the Living Lab methodology, etc. And as Mary-Luz presented at the beginning of this meeting, I'm going to talk about a great challenge in projects, the question of how to choose a project topic, which is, of course, very important because it's basically the beginning of our project. We want to define what we're going to do, what we are going to deal with in our project. We want to know what the project is all about, right? So, where do we start in this process? Now, what happens usually in projects is that we begin by asking ourselves, what are we going to make? Or what do we want to make? The intuitive thing to do here is to start raising ideas of things we want to make. We can say that we want to make maybe a new parking application. Maybe our students would like to develop a smart composter. If we talk about things in the food-related subjects. Maybe our students would like to make a video clip, some sort of a campaign maybe, okay? We can raise all sorts of ideas for things to do in the project. In other words, we think of the final product of our project. And this, of course, seems pretty obvious because we do a project. When we do a project, we want to know right from the beginning what it is that we're doing, right? Wrong. The question we need to ask ourselves when we start a new project is, what problem are we going to solve? A good project is not about coming up with an idea for some product that someone will hopefully use sometimes. A good project is about identifying a problem or a challenge that a lot of people care about. And only then the student's job is to find good solutions to that problem we identified. So in other words, we don't want to start our project with a decisive answer. We want to start it with a question. And the answer will come later on in the project. So this was the focus of a workshop we did with our SAL teachers in Israel. Some of them are right here in this meeting. And we wanted to offer them tools that will allow their students to come up with good and interesting challenges, not ideas, okay, for products. And in this process, we start with a general topic, then we move on to a project topic, then we define a need, and only then do we get finally to the challenge that will drive us through the rest of the project. Now, remember that we talk about projects in the framework of the Living Lab methodology. This means that we want to emphasize the connection to the community. And the process that you see here can help you with that because it defines a need. And every need is someone's need. So we can ask ourselves, whose problem are we trying to solve here? Who will use my solution? And this is why defining a need leads to identifying the users eventually and gives us proper background for engaging with them during our project. Okay, so I'll walk you through the process we did with our teachers very quickly. But of course, you can afterwards watch the recording again, and we'll give you the presentation and you will see it in more details. So We start with a general topic. That's the first thing we do. It should be a concept. It should be broad enough, but not too broad. For example, we can use, of course, we can start with food if we talk about the SAL project, the food system. We can talk also about things like border or time or equality. All things are pretty broad concepts, but they shouldn't be too concrete, like Newton's second law. Okay, that's a bad idea to start with because you can't really do anything with that. Biology is maybe too broad to start with, so it might not be a good idea for a general topic as well. But all these are pretty good examples. Okay, and from now on, I will go with water as an example for our general topic. So we start with the general topic. We give the students the general topic, water. And then what they need to do is to find subtopics. Okay, each student thinks of some related subtopics, like you see here in this list that we brainstormed about water. We can talk about flood, we can talk about water pollution, water saving, recreational activities, and so on. Everything that interests them in this topic. And then the next step would be, in groups, the students should narrow down all these concepts and choose only 4 of them. Okay, and these 4, they need to put them like that in some kind of a mind map. Okay, around the primary subject. The next step, for each subtopic, they need to come up with 2 more specific topics. For example, as you can see here, if we talk about floods, we can go and talk about floods prevention or water utilization. If we address water pollution as a subject, we can talk about preventing water pollution. And we can also talk about the purification of already contaminated water. So they need to come up with different ideas for each of the subtopics. So eventually they have 8 topics in total, as you can see here. And from them, they need to choose the one they like the most. In this example, we chose purification of contaminated water. Okay, the next step, they need to do some research on potential needs. This research should include the situations that relate to the chosen project topic, but also the people that are relevant to each of these situations, okay? Who influences this situation and this topic? Who is affected by this? So again, let's see some examples. So each of these pictures represent a situation related to water purification. We can talk about water purification in developing countries, in domestic use, in outdoor travel, water purification in agriculture or in industry, etc. And for each of these pictures, for each of these situations, we, the students, needed to research and think about relevant people. For example, in the domestic use, we can talk about civilians who use the purification systems. We can talk about policymakers. In outdoor travel situation, we can talk about the travelers themselves, or we can talk about travel equipment suppliers. Okay, so we try and think about different people, different community members that can help us in this project and can be addressed by this project. Okay, and for the final step, defining the challenge, we want the students to start asking questions. This is a very important step. They need to ask questions about the project topic, questions about the situation and people they just identified. And these are supposed to be good questions. As you see here, a good question is an open-ended one, one that there is more than one possible answer to it. It should be meaningful and relevant, but practical and feasible at the same time within the time frame, skills, and tools. Okay, so they get all this list of questions, they pick the best ones, and from these questions, they pick the one they want to deal with, and this chosen question will eventually be their challenge. So we have here some possible challenges or possible good questions related to water purification. How can we purify water with a portable device? How can we utilize sewage in agriculture? How to self-check water quality? A bad question would be, what are the main water pollutants? Now, why will this be a bad question? Because we can just go and Google it, right? We can find the answer in no time. So it won't drive us through the whole project. Okay, so as I said, after the students choose their question, this is actually their challenge for the project. And from this challenge, the next steps would be, of course, the next steps of the project, of the Living Lab methodology. They need to go all the way until they get a working solution, a working product, prototype, pilot it, etc. So just to conclude this, we had a 4-step process, starting with a big idea, a general topic like food, for example, then narrow it down to project topic, researching for a need, people and situations, and only then we got to the challenge, the question that drives this whole project towards a solution and a product. Okay, that was very brief, I know, but I hope you understood something. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Yair. I will switch off the recording now.
Yeah.